Hey, it's Dr. Schmidt. I've never told the story about my experiences with the vegan slash vegetarian diet, and I'm going to tell you the story right now. So it's quite a fad right now, and I'm sure it's not temporary, but a lot of people are getting social media stardom, if you will, by ending their vegan diet. So I ended mine in April of 1997. And so here's how I started it. I was in chiropractic. Let me just tell you right now, I'm 48 years old. That way you don't have to do the math. But in January of 1994, I started chiropractic school. And sometime in 1996, there was a classmate that had an odd-looking hot dog in the school. And I asked him about it, and he said, and he was very content, and he was very happy to share with me this information. It was TVP, textured vegetable protein. And so it's basically soy. So TVP sounds like a familiar, acronym, and textured vegetable protein sounds pretty scientific if you don't know your stuff. And with that conversation, I thought, okay, and he was very happy that he's not eating meat. And so I decided, okay, I'm not going to eat meat. And this is 1996. I called up my mom, and I was so happy with my decision. And she laughed at me on the phone, and I was very disappointed that she laughed at me. But she goes, everybody knows that meat is healthy and it's necessary for your body. Well, I was going to show her. So I avoided meat for about a year, maybe a little bit more than a year. And basically what stopped it was I graduated. And I was in Chicago in chiropractic school. And I moved back home to Ohio in April of 97. There's my certificate there. And I lived with my sister, and we had another roommate. And my sister threw a graduation party for me. And we lived in a rental house. So my family has farmland. Since 1937, my great-grandfather bought the first farm. And we've acquired farms in that area. And some of that farmland came with old houses that we turned into rental properties. So we had this old house that we lived in. It was a lot of fun. We had the graduation party. And my sister bought a whole bunch of bratwurst, frozen bratwurst. And at the time, I worked 3 days a week on the farm and 3 days a week in the office. I was renting space from a guy. And so when the days that I worked on the farm, I would go home and I would have 2 brats for lunch and 3 for dinner. And I did that for a couple months. So I had a lot of bratwurst, and I felt better than when I was avoiding meat. Now, when I was avoiding meat in 1996 in chiropractic school, I got a bunch of symptoms. And the 4 that I remember 23 years later are these. I was losing my hair, and I was in my mid to late 20s. I shouldn't have been losing my hair. I was cold and grumpy. Some people still think I'm grumpy, but I was grumpy then. And I couldn't wake up very well. And I remember one day in particular, I hit the snooze button 9 times. And so I was laying in bed for over an hour, and I just didn't have the energy to get out of bed. So anyways, it was the bratwurst after the graduation party that got my health back, and I had white buns with them every time that I ate them. Okay, so I was in practice in 97, and then in 99, I was at, this is kind of before the internet was super popular, but I saw an ad in the paper, and it said, come to this house for a nutrition class. And so I went to that house, I called them up, I said, I'm coming over, and it was the nighttime, and Don Mattis was one of the people involved in this nutrition class. So Don Mattis just came out with a book called Hyper Carnivore, and he's active on Instagram and Twitter, and you can check out his book. And so at the time, I learned from him that there's the Weston A. Price Foundation, there's also the Price Pottinger Foundation, but I learned 2 things in particular. One is that the value of dairy is the fat. And that was such a big aha moment for me. It's like, wait a minute. If the fat is valuable in dairy, then why take the fat out in the first place? The other thing I learned that day was that low carbohydrate means less than 75 grams per day of carbohydrates. Okay, so I took those 2 facts and I ran with that, and I actually had started, even though I started my chiropractic practice in 97, I didn't do nutrition until 98. So I've been hardcore nutrition now for 21 years. So now in 2000, I moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan. And beginning in 2001, I started going to some seminars. The chiropractic field has these great nutrition seminars, and I'm a seminar junkie. I've been to a lot of them. But there was one guy in particular, his name was Dr. Dobbins. and he spoke about ketosis, and he was in ketosis every day for 20 years. And so the chiropractic field has always been keto friendly. And so Dr. Dobbins, that's an interesting story. He was a nuclear technician in the Navy in the submarines. He actually worked on the nuclear power plants in the submarines. He got exposed to too much radiation in the Navy, and he ended up with prostate cancer. And that's what killed him, actually. So, but what's interesting is he talked about, and there's a test for the prostate cancer, and I forgot the name of it. It begins with a B, and it's a scale of 0 to 10. And if your score is 0, that means that the cancer is only in the prostate. If the score is 10, that means that the cancer has spread all over your body. So he took that test, and his score was like 7 or 8. It was very high. And then they did a CT scan, and they're going to find out how bad has the cancer spread throughout his whole body. Well, they did the scan, and it turns out that the cancer was only in the prostate. His ketogenic diet was protective, and this is true. Dr. Walter Longo has done studies on this. Ketosis protects the cells from cancer and from chemotherapy and other negative assaults on the body. So his years of being in ketosis extended his life significantly, I'm sure, that based on those lab tests. So anyways, the message here is that the chiropractic profession has always been very keto friendly, as far as I know, like beginning in 2001 when I started going to those seminars. And then the last thing that I want to say is that the social media that I've been experiencing the last 2 years has been very eye-opening, and it certainly rivals regular seminars, that's for sure. When you're at a seminar, you can get direct information from the source, and you can meet the people and see how they are, who they are, and whether or not you trust them, whether or not their data is quality. But yeah, I mean, social media is so quick in spreading information. It's great. It's great for the country. It's going to be great later for the lowering of the expenses in healthcare, in medical care. So there's my story on why I'm no longer vegan. It's because my sister threw a graduation party for me, and we had way too many brats at the end, so I had to get rid of the brats out of the freezer. And I felt so much better than when I had been the previous year. And I remember making a big pot of bean soup, and I really worked at it. And I worked so hard. I was good at it. I did a good job of avoiding meat. I was so good at it, that's why my hair was falling out. That's why I would hit the snooze button for an hour, and etc. Okay, good. So there's my story on why I'm no longer vegan, and I hope you enjoyed it.